Super excited to join you to talk about reimagining your automation program and the journey to CoE 2.0. My name is Micah Smith. I lead the community and learning team here at Automation Anywhere. Prior to coming to Automation Anywhere, I was actually an automation program leader myself at a company called TIAA or TIAA CREF, as you may have heard it called. And I led their automation program for multiple years before coming here to Automation Anywhere. And that said, that makes me very passionate about championing COE leaders and giving guidance on how to run automation programs. So I want to do a quick kickoff with my goal for this year. My goal is to equip our community to understand, design solutions for, and confidently embrace agentic process automation. And this session is absolutely in line with that goal. I want to make sure that everyone who attends these sessions, who attends our Pathfinder Summit, is equipped to be able to design and deliver agentic solutions. I want to start with a quick background in some agentic terminology, just so that we're all grounded in the same definitions. No doubt you've heard multiple definitions of what AI agents are and agentic workflows and what is APA, this agentic process automation. But I want to be really clear about how I think about it and how Automation Anywhere sees this. And if you walk away from this session with nothing else, at least you'll understand how we see and how we view agentic process automation. So I want to talk through a couple key phrases that you're likely to hear over the next few days, and especially during this session, so we have a common understanding of these terms. First off is agentic process automation. I want you to think of this as a framework for automating your complex business processes through the orchestration of AI agents and tools to achieve your business outcomes with appropriate controls and guardrails. Couple key phrases there. This is the orchestration of AI agents and the use of tools with controls and guardrails. And those are key phrases we need to make sure are in place. Without controls and guardrails, this can get off the rails very quickly. Now, agentic process automation, we said, is powered by AI agents. And I want you to think of AI agents as systems that coordinate the use of tools to accomplish objectives with varying degrees or levels of autonomy. And I say this because there is a spectrum of autonomy when it comes to designing, delivering, and developing AI agents, from just doing basic analysis with predefined decisions, kind of the very deterministic, to contextual reasoning with autonomous goal completion. And this is an area where we're going to continue to see a lot of innovation from Automation Anywhere, driving towards greater levels of autonomy throughout the year, and I'm sure into next year as well. The next phrase I want to introduce you to is this concept of tools. And these are discrete capabilities that AI agents can utilize to accomplish their goals. And this includes the use of task bots that you've already developed or new task bots, API tasks or cloud services, APIs, processes, scripts, AI skills, document automation, all the things, right? So if we roll all of this up, tools at the smallest level enable AI agents at the next level, and AI agents are orchestrated as part of agentic process automation. So if we put all of that together with a very simple definition, bringing this all together, agentic process automation is the framework that orchestrates the AI agents that coordinate the use of tool execution. That is a Instagram worthy quote right there. For the topic at hand, we're talking about this transition to the CoE 2.0. And as we jump into this journey with agentic readiness for your automation program, I want to do a quick reality check from a leadership perspective. And said most obviously and most directly, leadership is already bought in on AI. And it may not be your leadership, but in recent PwC survey, 70% of CEOs said that they see generative AI impacts to their business model in the next 3 years. 89% of those CEOs who've already started adopting generative AI said that it would significantly change the way that their organization creates, delivers, and captures value. Not on this slide, but I recently came across some data indicating that companies that referenced AI during their earnings calls had an average 12% increase in market valuation during 2024 compared to a 9% increase for those that didn't mention AI. So if your leadership isn't talking about AI, that alone should be an encouraging reason to start digging in. All of that said, it may need to start with you. Depending on your organization, depending on the size, depending on how forward looking it is, you may be the person who's the innovator, who's the guy or girl who's leading the way. And that's why sessions like this and our Pathfinder Summit are really important. But beyond leadership, are people actually adopting it? And the answer is a resounding yes. So if your organization hasn't started at least adopting some of these capabilities internally, you put yourselves in a challenging situation moving forward. If we look at survey results, 84% of organizations that were surveyed by a recent Retool survey said they've already started adopting AI in some way. That could be forward looking, that could be internal, that could be POCs, but they've at least started adopting it. 89% of executives that were surveyed ranked generative AI as a top initiative moving forward. 85% of executives surveyed indicate that they would be increasing Gen AI spend in 2025. And 80% of Fortune 500 companies mentioned AI in their annual reports in 2024, which is only expected to go up from here. So this, with the last slide, is definitely the impetus to say that people are already moving in this direction. And if you haven't started in this area, this is a critical inflection point for you. And if you're not doing it, know that your competitors, at least from this data, likely are getting started. So how does generative AI create this perfect storm for change when it comes to automation and specifically agentic automation? First off, I think of accessibility of AI capabilities that makes all of this available broadly. How many people in this session, did one of these tutorials where you build a machine learning model that can detect ham versus spam, right? It's a cool tutorial. It took really long. It was a lot of work. You had to do a lot of data cleanup, and ultimately the end result wasn't all that valuable for you. But with this large availability of large language models, we have the ability to easily integrate more complex and more advanced solutions into new or existing processes that enable new possibilities for truly end-to-end business automation, business function automation. But really, I think of it as like function transformation, right? We implemented some of these agentic solutions in our finance department. And now that team functions completely different, right? The people are doing things differently than they used to. Not just, hey, our work has changed a little bit, but we're actually reimagining what does finance look like and what do we need from this team. Second, your business stakeholders and also your customers demand more strategic and more accessible and more intelligent solutions. There are expectations from customers for smoother transactions, easier help when they need it, and more personalized user experiences. From your stakeholders, they also have ambitious goals about moving forward without breaking the bank, right? Your stakeholders are the people who are invested in your program, the ones that you're serving. So both point to, from a stakeholder perspective and customer perspective, point to a need for enterprise-wide reimagination of how work gets done and how we serve our customers. And then finally, third, market competition. And we saw this from survey results. The executives clearly recognize the power that these large language models offer in terms of reimagining service offerings, products, and efficiency. And we also saw that a large majority of companies are already digging in. And that's where there's this risk of falling behind your competitors if you haven't started. So let me be absolutely clear. I'm not suggesting you go out and build an automation that sucks in all of your patient data and starts sending out medical recommendations or immediately shifting all of your customer support to agentic responsive. That's not the solution. But what we want to think about is what are the ways that we can start adopting these capabilities from maybe internal processes and build from there. We're going to get very, very specific on our guidance here, especially as we look at, there's a session as a part of Pathfinder Summit on the concept of uh, agentic skill stacking and stacking these AI skills. Ollie Morris is leading that session. It's incredibly insightful. And it's really important the way to think about how I can start to stack some of these different AI skills to build these full-on AI agents. All right. So that takes us to some key considerations for automation leaders. And this is the last slide on beating everyone up about, hey, the impetus is here. But I want you to be thinking about some of these key questions as we go through the rest of our content today. Um, is your program ready for AI transformation? And if not, what's holding you back? Are you automating tasks or are you truly transforming and reimagining processes? What are the new skills and structures that you'll need to adopt for AI powered automation capabilities? What skills you need to develop as a team, not only from a leadership perspective and an adoption perspective, but what technical skills does your team need to start working on? And if I just stick to RPA, what does that mean for the future of my program? And that is a very sobering thought. And that takes us to this concept of the evolution of the automation COE. So as you think about these different questions, the answer is likely to point to where you fall on this spectrum of being what I'm defining as a 1.0 COE or a 2.0 COE. And I think that this is a really important consideration for automation program leaders, especially at this pivotal moment of time where your organization and your stakeholders need you to help lead the way in innovation and need you to help lead the way on the art of the possible. So I want to break this down a little bit so that we have a clear understanding of this. On the left, you can see what I would consider some, 5 key considerations for a 1.0 COE. And it's not just the focus of that program, but also how it's perceived internally, how it's aligned strategically within the organization, and how it's viewed by its stakeholders. So if I'm describing you here, this isn't to come down on you or to beat up on you, but it's a bit of a wake up call that you can control your destiny here. And I want to compare and contrast a 1.0 to a 2.0 COE here in a couple key areas. And then the rest of the session is going to be about making some of those key transitions. So first in focus, right? A COE 1.0 is largely focused on task automation, very RPA centric. They're focused on automating parts and pieces of a process, not an end-to-end workflow. And again, if you're an automation leader, you caught the flaming football of like, hey, someone told me to lead a program, or hey, I stepped into this and I'm kind of new to this. That's okay, right? Like I led an automation program. We were at a COE 1.0 for a while as well. So this isn't beating up on anyone. What I'm trying to do is cast a vision for you so that you can start to define your strategy. You can start to define your vision for 2025. So COE 2.0, by contrast, in the focus area, is largely dialed in on business and function transformation through agentic process automation, and key phrase here, with alignment to organizational or even stakeholder objectives, right? So key focus on how they're thinking about their program and how they're aligned. A COE 2.0 clearly understands what's important to our leadership and is focused on driving the automation program in that same direction with that same perspective. So if you're an automation leader, if you're an automation program leader, you're sitting through a all company town hall, you hear leadership talking about a couple topics, you need to be dialed in to say, how does that align to our objectives, our strategy as an automation program? Okay. Because those need to be aligned with the way that your program is going. And likewise, if you're invited to, let's say, a town hall for the finance department or HR, who's one of your key stakeholders, understand what are their OKRs? What are the things that matter to them? Because that's the things that you need to be focusing on to make sure that you're really driving solutions that matter for them. Let's talk about metrics. Metrics is a key area that I'm very passionate about. And this is an area that I think is going to be one of the easiest for automation program leaders to mature and develop a new mindset on the way that they think about and talk about metrics. If we look at a COE 1.0, they're largely reporting out on the number of bots deployed, hours saved, and that's mostly it, right? If that's you, you don't have to raise your hand, but it's okay, right? We've all been there. We say, well, hey, we delivered 15 bots this quarter. And you say that to a leader, and they're going to say, that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, right? And we all know that a bot could be 3 lines of code, or it could be 15 subtasks with 500 lines. It's an operational metric, and that doesn't drive business value for your organization. So it's something you want to consider as you seek out additional program investment, right? If I'm telling people we delivered 5 automations, they're going to say, what does that mean to my bottom line? What does that mean to my objectives? So a COE 2.0 leader is really focused on the metrics that matter for their organization and for their stakeholders. So this COE is really dialed in on telling the complete metrics narrative of the full impact of delivered automations, from the ROI to the cash flow impact to revenue generation, employee experience, environmental benefits. We have something called the Automation Impact Measurement Framework, or AIM framework. This is a call to action to check that out. It will make sure that COE 2.0 level metrics readout is way easier for you. Matt Stewart has a session this week called Overcoming the Pitfalls of Value Tracking. It's on this exact same topic, this AIM framework. So I'd highly encourage you to check that out if that's an area where you feel like you can improve. From a strategy perspective, COE 1.0 is bottoms up. It's very IT centric, right? Are you running an IT program, or are you running a business that operates within your organization? So COE 1.0 is very focused on ad hoc requests that they take on. They're constantly running out of automation opportunities in their pipeline. Conversely, COE 2.0 is taking a top-down approach because of that key alignment to departmental and organizational objectives. They know what OKRs their stakeholders have, and they're dialed in on making them successful. So if this one seems like a challenge for you, start paying attention on all of those company town hall meetings. It becomes blatantly obvious what leadership cares most about in those meetings. So that should be helping to drive your perspectives. Let's talk about internal perception. And I'm going to say that we partner with that value prop here because this is going to be key to your success in 2025. COE 1.0 is seen, like many other IT programs, as a cost center. That's not where you want to be. It may have been strategic at one point, but there are only so many screen scraping use cases to take on. And if that program doesn't evolve beyond cost savings, then you run the risk of becoming irrelevant. So this is really important to consider the way that you're being perceived and your value proposition internally. COE 2.0 is seen as a strategic investment, right? Investment, meaning that I have a high ROI for the organization and it's a source of innovation. So the solutions that come out of a COE 2.0 are those that are enabling departments and teams to function and think and work in a way that they never have before. And it's providing the organization with a clear competitive advantage. If that seems like a reach for you, again, this is what we're going to be coaching you on through the rest of this session. So in summary, I'd say that leading a COE 1.0 is thinking of themselves as a technical solution or a department for the organization, whereas a COE 2.0 is thinking of their program as a business, and they're considering, how do we adapt? How do we innovate? How do we maximize the value that we're delivering for the organization? And it's that type of program leadership. It's that type of COE program that your leadership can't help but want to invest in, because they know that this is a high ROI program, and they know that every dollar they spend there returns, 5x value for the organization. So part of that comes down to perception. Part of that comes down to metrics. Part of that comes down to your clear value justification. So if you look at this and you say, well, my program probably falls someplace in between here, some of those things that COE 2.0 is focused on, but we're also in some 1.0 area, and that's fine. If we all agree on that, where does our program need to go from here? So, Kate, I think do we have a poll here that I just missed the results of? Let me see, speakers chat. Where would you say your automation program is today? Can we launch that? Let's see. There you go. Pulse check. We went through 1.0 and 2.0. Tell me where you feel like your COE program is at. Are you a 1.0 COE? Are you a 2.0 COE? Someplace in between? Hopefully that poll is showing up. Otherwise, we're going to move on. All right. While we're processing those poll results, I'm going to keep going. And I want to start by introducing this Pathfinder framework. If we all agree that this shift from a 1.0 to a 2.0 is where we want to head, then we have to recognize that this isn't just an upgrade, right? It's a transformation in the way that we think about and we deliver automated solutions. So, to support this transition, I want to introduce you to our brand new, the poll's not visible. Awesome. All right. Well, while we figure that out, shout it out in the chat where you're at. 1.0, 2.0, just put it in the chat. Someplace in between. Oh, all right. Kate's going to launch it. So we're going to talk about this Pathfinder framework here. And to support that, I want you to first start by looking in the resources of this section. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, check out the resources, download this workbook. This workbook is going to be really helpful for you to take some notes on as we go along. And it's got some fields in it, right? So you can do this on a computer, you can fill out this form, or you can print this out and go old school and take notes. That's fine. But follow along as we go through the various dimensions of this Pathfinder framework. Make a couple notes on where your program is crushing it. We've got a lot of people chiming in the chat. 1.0, 1.0, 1.25, 0.5. Hey, we're here for you. All right. This is going to be a great session for you guys. 0.5. Awesome. So identify the key areas that you want to really nail this year. Again, in the intro section, we talked about this concept that small hinges move big doors. Pick 2, maybe 3 things that you're really going to focus on this year that you feel like are going to unlock the most value for your automation program and really dial into those. So let me start by introducing this Pathfinder framework. And this framework is our methodology for guiding organizations through the key 9 dimensions that we think are really important for building and scaling successful automation programs. And this goes from the very basic RPA to sophisticated agentic solutions. So if you're at the 1.25555, which I see Rick, thanks for chiming in there. If that's where you're at, we're also guiding you, but we're also leading people through delivering on these agentic solutions. And that's what I really like about this is it addresses everything from your strategy and your governance to the way you think about delivering and even talking about your program, all of which are really helpful considerations as organizations evolve from their first automation to enterprise-wide agentic transformation. So through this structured approach across all key aspects of program development, this Pathfinder framework enables organizations to accelerate their automation journey while avoiding and addressing common pitfalls while also maximizing business value. So one other thing that I want to point out here is these are not just 9 random concepts that we put together for a cool visual. These are interconnected and the dimensions have relationships to each other and they need to be balanced out as you consider growing your program and addressing problems that you may face. And I want to start by introducing some of the logic of how these are related. So on the left-hand side here, we have what I define as key program delivery focus areas. So if we look at it going from the top to the bottom, in foundation and framework, I'm setting the stage for defining where my program will go, how we're going to govern, and how we're going to operate. In the next line down there, in execution and excellence, I'm thinking about how people and roles are needed to make our program successful, as well as how we're going to prioritize opportunities that we'll use to build and deliver. And then finally, along the bottom there, we have impact and influence. And I like going from right to left on this bottom one because we kind of start with where development and deployment leaves off. And that's my change management process. And that's where we cover how we're going to get those solutions into production, how we're going to report on them through our value metrics and analytics, and finally, how we talk about our solutions and our program across the enterprise. So you can see that there's already a relationship here that goes kind of chronologically from my key program delivery focus areas. We can take this one step further by saying along the top, there's also operational focus areas. So that can help you to clue in on areas of responsibility across your program. So for example, in the strategic leadership column on the left, we have program strategy, team and roles, as well as evangelism and stakeholder management. And that's really something that the program leader or the CoE leader is going to be responsible for. In the middle, we have operational governance column. And that's where we have everything from governance to prioritization of our opportunities and the way that we measure our solutions. And then finally, on the far right, we have our tactical execution. And it's all about how we actually get things done and how our team is organized and how we're developing and delivering these automations. And then finally, how we're getting them into our production environments through change management. Now, all of that alignment aside, as we look at these 9 dimensions, I want to cover some of the key considerations for automation program readiness as you move towards adopting agentic automation. So, as we go through some of these key dimensions, I want to highlight some of the key considerations that you need to be thinking about as your program continues to mature. And our focus for this session is really about how to understand these changes that will be needed as we move from that RPA to APA, or as we move from that CoE 1.0 to a 2.0. And I want to talk through the key considerations for what changes, but also what doesn't, right? Not everything has to be scrapped, and we don't start over on everything just because we have moved to APA. So I want to start most clearly with strategy and vision. Look at that slide transition, so smooth. So this dimension is all about setting up the strategic vision for your program, defining how you're going to leverage AI and automation to drive business transformation, and how you're going to make sure that this is a mission that your team and stakeholders really understand and can get behind. For everyone in the chat, who has a program strategy and vision that's clearly defined? Let me know. Yay or nay. If it's one sentence, let me know what it is. So if you don't have a program strategy already, something that's really clear, well-defined, kind of the rallying cry for your team, you need to focus on one. If you have a program strategy, but it points to being the center of RPA, then a key focus for you is going to be how you evolve that program vision in light of new AI powered automation capabilities. This is kind of one of those concepts where you name it and claim it, right? This is setting where we want to go, even if it's not what we're delivering on today. And we want to think about where that's going to set the direction for our team and a vision for our stakeholders. So key consideration as you do this is thinking through not only program capabilities you have or you want, but also where your stakeholders, your leaders, your company is going. Nothing is more compelling than a strategy that demonstrates alignment and understanding of corporate objectives and stakeholder OKRs. And last but not least, this is something you're going to want to reassess regularly as your program capabilities change, as your organization's focus changes, as you make those shifts. You'll want to make sure that your program vision and strategy is clear and aligned. And last but not least, I also want to highlight some of the interconnected dimensions here. I told you that within the Pathfinder framework, there are connections to a lot of these different dimensions. And I want to talk through this real quick so it's really clear how I think about these different dimensions enabling and unlocking things for each other. So my program strategy and vision is very clear. It's defined. It's saying where we want to go and what we're doing. That informs the way that my operating model and delivery is done, right? Because that informs the structure of the team. Are we centralized? Are we federated? Are we doing citizen development? It also informs my evangelism and stakeholder management. If I define a killer vision for my program, but I don't tell anyone about it, or no one's aligned to it, then I have missed something, right? So my strategy and vision is part of what I'm sharing as a part of my evangelism, as a part of my stakeholder management. My strategy and vision sets the goals for where we want to go. That is tied directly to value measurement and analytics because that demonstrates the completion of those goals. If my goal, someone said, I think in the chat earlier, is to deliver $1 million savings this year, great goal. Value measurement and analytics is directly related to that because that's how I'm going to quantify and report on the impact that I've had. And then finally, opportunity identification and pipeline management. My strategy and vision sets where we want to go. I need to look at my opportunity pipeline to determine how I need to prioritize opportunities that are aligned to that strategy and vision. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not going to take on an opportunity that's misaligned to my vision or strategy, right? I want to stick to those opportunities that are aligned to my program vision. So hopefully you can kind of understand how those things start to connect. I want to jump back to our dimensions here. I'm not going to go through all 9 of these for our transition from 1.0 to 2.0, but I do want to highlight a couple of these. And then I'm going to ask you guys which ones you think are most important. The next one I think that is the most important for me as I think about the transition from CoE 1.0 to 2.0 is my governance and risk management. And this is huge because for many organizations, they have already gotten started with an AI governance council. And it's really important to consider how we interact with them and the role of an AI governance council. So let's take a step back to say that governance and risk management is all about how I think about governing my automation program. And it's a critical piece of the puzzle to a successful AI driven automation program. And this is really all about setting up the guardrails that protect while enabling innovation and growth at scale. So I think governance kind of gets a bad rap because we hear about it and we think, oh, it's all these rules and it keeps us from innovating, it keeps us from moving quickly. But the reality is, it can and should be quite the opposite. Governance practices that you put into place should enable faster innovation and expedited delivery because you aren't going through those same approvals over and over and those same requests over and over. So it's really about setting up those guardrails that your program is going to operate by. So how does this work when we think about this transition to an automation CoE 2.0? Well, it starts with establishing a partnership with your internal AI governance council. Let me see in the chat, who has an AI governance council at their organization already? We're making this interactive. So for a little background, while people are chiming in here, organizations are establishing or have established these AI governance councils. And these councils exist very similar to your automation program CoE. The objective is to ensure the responsible use and implementation of AI within the organization. So their goals are around the responsible use of AI, data security, making sure that capabilities are being used in a safe way with appropriate oversight. An AI governance council is interested in adoption, just like you are interested in adoption of AI. They're interested in responsible and safe usage of AI, the same way that you're interested in the responsible use of AI. They're interested in driving AI literacy and practical use cases and best practices, just like you're interested in literacy and practical use cases and best practices. So the relationship goes both ways for sure, but you're going to need the buy-in from your AI governance council to access AI tooling, the various approved LLMs, maybe RAG solutions or enterprise knowledge if you're using that. And they will benefit from your efforts of making AI capabilities actionable and available across the enterprise. So looking here, it looks like we have a CoE council. Yes, yes, no, actually pretty mixed. Um, if you don't have an AI governance council, it may be something you want to suggest within your organization because in some way your organization needs to have a common standard for the way that they're going to adopt and leverage generative AI capabilities, right? Which large language models are we using? Which providers? How are we going to make sure that data is safe? What are our standards for using RAG-based solutions or retrieval augmented generation? So it's really important to set that up. If you have one already, it will be great to consider how you're working with them and make sure to partner with them early. Another key area why they need you is you have this unique ability to provide AI powered automation, which is great, but also human in the loop capabilities that can be embedded into literally any web application or even Teams, right? So as you stress the importance of human in the loop reviews for agentic data extraction and decisioning, you're providing that usage pattern and that key interface to make that happen. So think about that as you work with your AI governance council and the way that you're talking to them, because they're trying to do the same thing that you probably did a couple years ago. Set standards for the way that automation is going to work. Set standards for the way that we're interacting with different data. Set standards for what applications we're working with, right? So this is a key partnership you want to make sure you have in place. Beyond working with the AI Governance Council, you'll also want to make sure that you start to establish some new approval workflows for design and sign-offs for your AI-powered solutions. How do we evaluate these solutions are correctly solving the challenges at hand? Who needs to sign off on delivered solutions? Is there a role for AI Governance Council in our change management process, right? Do we have to have some evidence of testing and things like that? So you'll want to define all of that. You'll also want to define some clear policies for AI model management, data usage, and security, which is especially important as you start to consider documentation, proof of testing, the way that you're capturing that you've tested both positive and negative use cases of your AI powered solutions. So, this is really important as you start to deliver some of these solutions because you're going to start to notice some patterns. Is this a use case where I'm using an off the shelf model without the need for any enterprise data? Is this a use case where there's no sensitive information? Do I need to reach out to enterprise knowledge because this is a response that needs to leverage our enterprise data or databases? So you're going to start to see those patterns come up and you're going to come up with these different types of solutions. Wink, wink, hint to some of our later sessions. And as you begin to work with some of these different scenarios, your processes, your workflows, your AI model use policies, even the agents themselves can become repeatable processes and assets that you can use across the board. So this is going to be really important to partner with them early. When we think about key relationships here, obviously your operating model and delivery needs to align with your governance, your deployment and development standards obviously will be influenced by the way that you set up your AI policies. And then finally, change management adoption, kind of getting back to that governance of who needs to sign off, who needs to be aware when these different AI solutions are going live. All right, I'm going to cover one more, and then I'm going to open this up for kind of a self-directed mode here. The one other one I want to cover that I think is the one that has the biggest impact when you think about um, moving from this CoE 1.0 to 2.0 is your opportunity intake and pipeline management. And what I really like about this, especially in the context of the Pathfinder framework, is that we're focused on how we're prioritizing and identifying opportunities that are aligned to our program vision and goals, which automatically means that they're aligned to our organizational strategy and the objectives of our stakeholders, right? Because we said that our vision and strategy is aligned to organizational objectives and to our stakeholders. So if that's true, then that means the way that we think about and prioritize opportunities is also aligned. So hopefully you're starting to see how some of this comes full circle. When we get it right in one area, it unlocks us getting it right in another area much more easily. So first off, when you're thinking about opportunity identification and pipeline management, we want to think about establishing a method for prioritizing opportunities based on AI readiness, which is directly related to the people and skills on our team, right? Thinking of like a competency matrix. Where do we have skills on the team? Where do we have gaps? Where do we have a needed opportunity for someone to develop? And I want to make sure I'm prioritizing opportunities that are aligned to my program strategy and vision, plus the skills that we have today. So that means I might even cherry pick some opportunities if that gives me the opportunity to develop some skills on my team that we need to build as we take our first step into agentic automation or work with a new stakeholder, right? Let's say that I've been working to establish a relationship with HR and they put their first opportunity in our pipeline. Maybe I'm going to prioritize that one because it enables me to kind of unlock a new department or a new area of the organization. I'm also going to develop an assessment framework that enables me to define the three T's. The three T's that we think about here are type, technology, and talent of the AI powered automation problem that we're solving. What do we mean by that? Well, first off, what's the type of problem that I'm solving with this solution? It could be classification. It could be sentiment analysis. It could be doing some, keyword data extraction. So that's the type of problem. What's the technology that's going to power that? Is it retrieval augmented generation? Is it just an off the shelf LLM? Is it API tasks? Is it task bots? Is it AI agents, right? I want to think about the technology that makes this possible. I also want to think about talent. And I think of talent in two ways. What's the role of human in the loop, right? What role are humans going to play as a part of this process? And then also, what talent do we have to be able to deliver this solution? Do we have someone who has done this type of prompt engineering before? Do we have someone who's worked with enterprise knowledge or a RAG-based solution before? So I want to think about that assessment framework as I'm starting to identify these opportunities that I want to take on with AI powered automation. I also want to make sure that I'm being considerate of new opportunities as well as look back opportunities. What do I mean by that? Well, what delivered solutions could be enhanced by AI capabilities, right? I'm going to look back at what I've been doing over the last year or so and say, if I look at that with an agentic lens, how would I change the solution that I've delivered there? Maybe it's what could be extended before or after the automation that I delivered, right? Where could I automate that full end to end process? All right. So that's three key areas that I think change as you think about your automation program moving from this CoE 1.0, 2.0. I want to hear from you as you look at these 9 dimensions. What's one or two key areas that you think really require the biggest change that we haven't covered yet? Because I'd like to cover one or two of these. We're clearly not going to have time to go through all 9, but I do want to cover one or two of them that the is kind of audience directed. So, oh, there's a poll that just came up. On that poll, which of these dimensions do you think needs the most attention to make that leap from agentic automation? The leap to agentic automation, I should say. See if I can see the results here. Kind of split. Okay, it looks like evangelism and stakeholder management is up to an early lead. People and skills. All right, people and skills. Let's take a look at that one. We'll do 2 of these. You can keep voting if you haven't voted yet. So, in people and skills, this is all about identifying and developing the expertise that's needed to deliver these AI powered solutions. And if we think about it, people are really the powerhouse for getting all of this done. So, this dimension is all about considering how we're developing, nurturing, setting a plan for that team, that development engine. Um, First off, we want to make sure that we have competency frameworks in place that include AI specific skills and experience. What do I mean by a competency framework? That means I'm going to have everyone on my team listed out. I'm going to have all of the skills that we need to deliver agentic solutions. Maybe I'm going to start with just automation solutions, and then I'm going to extend that to agentic solutions. And I'm going to start to mark out, where do we have people who are, let's say, experts in prompt engineering? Where do we have people who are experts in working with retrieval augmented generation? It doesn't have to be terribly complex. They don't have to be masters. Or where do we have people who are interested in learning these new skills? I want to understand that because I want to make sure that everyone on my team has a clearly defined career path. And I, as an automation program leader, have a clear understanding of where we have skills, where we have gaps, and where we have opportunities for people to develop. I want to define those clear career paths to include advancing in AI and automation skills that are needed to support our program goals. Now, we're not leaving you hanging here. Automation Anywhere University has a ton of this training already. So if it's someone who wants to develop to be a more proficient automation developer, we've got materials for that. If they want to learn new skills like document automation, creating API tasks, using Process Composer, using Copilot embedded, we've got courses that cover all of those topics. So it's really defining, where do we have gaps? Where do we want people to develop? And who's going to develop into those key areas? We also want to think about the training programs that teach the how and why of agentic automation, and that they continue to evolve with our advancing AI capabilities. We have an AI agent training camp coming up where we're going to be teaching developers how to build and think about these different AI skills. As another session in this Pathfinder Summit, we also have a session on agentic skill stacking that Ollie Morris is going to be leading. So think about how I can plug people into those different materials so they can start to develop that mindset for delivering these solutions. And then we also want to think about the POCs that we want to make as a part of that development plan, right? One of the key ways that I think about doing evangelism, which is another topic we'll talk about here in a second, if I think about evangelism and stakeholder management, part of the way that I get people excited about my program is having a really clear strategy and vision. Part of the way that I get people really excited about my program is really cool POCs that I can show off, right? I need to demonstrate the art of the possible so that people get excited about what this team is capable of. If I've been doing screen scraping and RPA solutions only, that doesn't get exciting anymore in 2025. I need to think about what kind of agentic solutions can I develop to get them excited to see the art of the possible of this combination of both um, AI agents and automation capabilities coming together for best of breed, kind of developing both. All right, let's jump back and I'm going to do one more of these. It looks like the next highest voted on was value measurement in analytics. So let's jump to that one. So when we think about this dimension, this is all about implementing a comprehensive value measurement framework. And the way that I like to think about this is our AIM framework, and that stands for Automation Impact Measurement. We've got an entire session on that coming up that Max Stewart's going to be leading. Look through the itinerary here and find that one. But the AIM framework breaks down the benefits that we talk about of a delivered solution in terms of their financial impact, their operational impact, and organizational impact. And within that, we've got three dimensions in each of those and questions that you can be asking yourself to understand and tell the story of your full, metrics narrative, the full impact of your delivered solutions. So we want to establish some AI specific performance analytics to include things like model accuracy, consistency, human and AI agreement, and throughput improvements, right? So we're going to think about all those things. Those are really operational metrics, but they can help us as a program understand how much quicker, how accurate we are in delivering these kind of solutions. We also want to think about design level executive reporting to include trend analysis, forecasting, ROI, business value, case validation, stuff like that. We want to think about who's the recipient here, and we always want to keep that in mind. So if it's one of my key stakeholders who has OKRs about SLAs, then they're going to care the most about throughput. They're going to care the most about how quickly we're able to get these transactions through the system, how accurate we are, how reliably we've helped them to meet their SLA. They care maybe slightly less about the financial numbers. So we want to make sure that as we're thinking about the reporting out that we're doing, and as we're thinking about trend analysis and forecasting and all this kind of stuff, that we're reporting in terms that our stakeholders actually care about. So those are really important considerations for our program as we think about moving forward in, kind of the CoE 2.0 mindset. All right. So hopefully this Pathfinder framework helped you to kind of understand some of the key areas, the key dimensions that your program will need to mature as you move to that CoE 2.0. So hopefully you have lots of notes. This is not the last time that you will see this Pathfinder framework as a part of Pathfinder Summit. I know that some of the other sessions we have will be covering these different dimensions and different depths. So please make sure you tune into those if you want to learn a little bit more about some of those other dimensions. Let's talk about your next steps. So the journey to CoE 2.0 isn't just about adopting new technology. It's about reimagining what's possible in your organization. And that journey starts here today. So that has a couple things. First, reflect on what went well, right? What areas are you really crushing it? And what areas do you have the biggest gaps? I ask you to take some notes from the beginning of this session, some of the areas where you feel like you need to lean in, some of the areas where you feel like additional investment will enable you to unlock some benefits in different areas. So make note of those as you go throughout the rest of the week. Make sure to keep updating that and think through that. Take action, right? Come up with a plan on how you're going to address some of those key areas. Attend some of those sessions that you know are going to lean into those gotcha areas or the areas where you feel like you have the biggest opportunity. And know that this doesn't happen overnight, right? So lean into just a few of these. Start small, but start now. Lean into a few of these key areas and focus on where you're going to go. Before we wrap up, drop in the chat one concrete action you plan to take in the next 30 days to move your program towards CoE 2.0. Just put this in the chat. No poll, nothing like that. What's one concrete action you're going to take to move towards CoE 2.0? Finally, you're not alone, right? This is a shared journey. Obviously, we've got a room full of people who are also on this journey. A lot of people said that they're CoE 1.0, 0.5. We saw some 0.125s. So you have resources to help you. You have other people. connect with other resources, connect with other people in our Pathfinder community, connect with us. We're going to be releasing more Pathfinder related training, more Pathfinder related guidance throughout the rest of the year. So make sure to stay tuned to that. Last thing, keeping the momentum going. Engage with the Pathfinder community, right? Lots of resources there, lots of other people. We've got a COE leader community that's going to be starting up. So if you're an automation program leader and you want to connect with your peers and you want to share lessons learned and learn from others, that's a great way to do that. Explore different programs and events. We've got everything from developer meetups and user groups to product club, lots of events, even this Pathfinder Summit. So make sure to stay tuned to that. We also have an AI agent training camp that's coming up, which will include a track for both developers and automation leaders. So if you're an automation leader and you want to learn more about COE readiness for agentic automation, I'd encourage you to join that and encourage your developers to join the developer track so you can be learning those things together. And then finally, for getting support on your 2025 goals, we commit to the training, the blog posts, the guidance to help you out. And don't forget to ask your CSM. Um, they can help you go through some Pathfinder content as well and some exercises. Good shout out from Brian. We had someone say developing a combined pipeline for all opportunities to flow through for transformation. I love that. That's a key area to lean into this year. And that has the potential to really unlock their program to grow from there. Hey, thanks everyone so much for joining. Hopefully you found this session helpful as you transition from this COE 1.0 to 2.0. I want to encourage you. It's definitely possible. I hope that this unlocks some new thoughts, some new ideas to really move from being an IT centric program to being a program that is a strategic center of innovation for your organization. So I want to encourage you on that journey. If there's anything that I can do to help, please reach out. Let me know. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me all over this Pathfinder Summit. But thanks, guys, for joining. Enjoy the rest of Pathfinder Summit and go be great.